Here we
There
go.
goes.
Okay, so wants me to start with a quick synopsis of the case. It says the coach of the Army crew team at the United States Military Academy at West Point faced a dilemma about how to foster team performance. At the start of the crew season, he had used objective data on individual performance to select his top 8 rowers for the varsity crew and the second tier of 8 rowers for the junior varsity crew. When the two crews raced one another at practice, however, the JV crew beat the varsity crew about 2/3 of the time. The case follows the coach's attempt to determine the causes of these aberrant results. By the end of the season, the varsity was still mired in a downward spiral with only 1 week to go before the season-ending nationals race. The coach must decide what action to take to help the varsity crew members pull together to reach their potential as a team. So, overall, what do you guys think were the main issues of why of the case?
My
Anybody?
first one was that the varsity team does not work as a cohesive unit. And it talked in there about how in crew, I didn't know it was called that. I just thought it was like rowing. But
That's what
but in crew, like you have to be all synced. Like it doesn't work right if you're not. And so they don't really trust each other or like each other, and so they're just not a cohesive unit, and so they can't function properly. That was my first one.
Yeah, I agree.
I think another issue was that the JV team started to beat the varsity team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
It's nothing.
Well, a point I brought up on that in my paper was that, like, you know, in collegiate and high school sport, any kind of sports, like where there's varsity and JV or varsity is like, you know, the top performing thing. And it's like a cultural like necessity. And so if JV is consistently beating varsity, you've destroyed this like hierarchy that's supposed to exist. And without it, like these JV guys are not wanting to go to varsity because they're like, no, we're better than varsity. And so it creates an entire just psychological problem, I think, when that's happening.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
Even in the case study, it said that the coach picked the best players for the varsity team, or the best rowers or crew. I don't know.
Yeah, the strongest ones.
Right.
I thought that was funny that he has. I have all this data all lined up, so all these people, they should be the very best, and then it wasn't showing that. So, and it's interesting. I thought it was interesting how talked about different members of the varsity team. Like they didn't listen to each other. They didn't. Nobody wanted to listen to like a person who's trying to be the leader. Like they all wanted the glory. They all, but they didn't want to take any of the blame, and it's just interesting how
they
that
all
plays.
wanted to be the all-star of the team.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's not an individual sport.
No, they can't. They can't all stand. One of them can't stand to win without the others winning, so it's kind of defeats the purpose. All of them fighting amongst each other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
An issue was that the fact that the coach had him competing so often, because it said that right after and he picked the teams that they did fight against or race against each other, and like did hit one handsomely, and then it's like once they lost with it, like the whole season, rather than them trying to work together, they were so concerned that they were losing to JV.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of a bad coaching strategy.
Because
JV's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Nothing to lose.
No, they don't.
Varsity, on varsity, because if you lose, that's humiliating, and it's just gonna make you worse.
It's true. They probably got so defeated that it's like, what,
What's the point?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I think, I didn't think about the coach and his mistakes as much as I thought about the team and what they were doing wrong. So that's a good point.
And like another part of it too was how they were saying that like an intermediate coach focuses on technique, but a master coach focuses on the psychological part of it.
Yeah.
Problem with them working together all season, and then for winter and spring, all he's caring about is how strong they get so that they can compete in nationals when issues.
Yeah.
When it's more than just strength, they need to be like synced as a team.
So I thought a lot of it went on the coach rather than how the players were reacting.
One of my recommendations, because I thought that they weren't working as a team, was that they should do like a class ropes course or whatever, one of those team building exercises that corporations do.
I thought the same thing.
I think something else that was
one thing that. Go ahead.
Oh, something else that was interesting was the JV team, when they had a problem, because they critiqued themselves at the end of each practice, and the JV team never singled anyone out. They always said, hey, well, here's something we all need to work on, instead of saying, hey, Joe, you did this really bad. And I think that's an important thing to know, because that tears apart a team when someone thinks they're doing worse than everybody else, even though they might be.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's see. So what other recommendations would you guys say to kind of fix the problem? Like what should you do to, I don't know, band the varsity team together more, or should he switch up players from JV and varsity?
Honestly, I think the best alternative that I could come up with is just to swap them, team for team. Just switch the names. Because the JV, they have the cohesiveness, they're working as a unit, they're doing well by themselves. To break that team up would just make them both bad this late in the game. I mean, that was my best alternative.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it'd just cause more problems if he tried to switch players, or if he tried to just keep pushing the varsity team, where it's too late. It's too late for that. They've come too far.
Right now, you're just cleaning up the pieces, trying to make do and start clean next year.
Yeah, that was my recommendation as well, to switch the teams, but then to continue racing them. So like make the switch official and say, okay, this is now varsity and this is now JV, and then see if continue racing and see if the old varsity team could come up to par and start performing. And if they couldn't, then no harm, no foul. You already switched them; it's no big deal. But then have a couple days. But so my whole thing was three things. First, he had to switch them, so that way JV was now varsity and varsity was now JV. The old varsity would get sent to like a ropes course or something to try and do team building, and then they would continue, because they only have like a week till nationals. So every day up until they would continue racing. And if the varsity can pull together and perform like they should be and start smoking the JV team or the old whatever, old varsity can be new varsity, then he can switch them back or whatever. But for now, he makes a change, makes it official, sends the bad guys to a course to kind of learn some team building things, and then gives them one last chance. And if not, then you've already made the change and you just go ahead with it. That was my whole recommendation.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I had a little bit of a different.
with only a week till nationals. After nationals, they start the whole process over of rebuilding the teams.
Right.
They lose a bunch of the seniors. They got to reform the teams all over again.
My take on switching the teams was a little bit different. I didn't think it was necessarily my first choice that I would have done because I feel like he's going to have some rowers returning, and if he just switches the teams 4 days before nationals, he could lose a lot of respect from his team for the next year. Where it's like if he puts the varsity team, if he makes a varsity team next year and like I'm put on varsity, then it's like, well, there's a good chance he's going to put me back on JV right before nationals this year. And I'm returning and I'm one of his best rowers, and I'm like, well, he threw me on JV right before the biggest race of the year. I'm not going to row next year, so then he's going to lose his stronger rowers. Can't, like, he should try to get them to be unified, and if he can't, he should cut his losses because it's only 4 days to the end of the season.
Yeah, that's true.
At least he can have some of them return and still have some respect. So
Yeah,
It's true. I
and
hadn't thought about that.
I agree with what you said in the beginning, Zach. I think the coach wasn't being really a coach. I think you need to step up and unite the team and tell them how to do it. Because, I mean, if they're having these critique meetings at the end of the lesson by themselves, then maybe he just needs to step in and take charge of his team. So, I don't know.
yeah, I agree.
But I'm with you. I think he shouldn't switch any of the players because obviously it was teamwork that was stopping him because when they pit him against 4 versus 4, 6 versus 6, the varsity team always won.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And switching the whole varsity to JV is probably going to lose all of the returning players, which are all of his best rowers. So
Right.
That's true. That's true.
That's I think you kind of hit it on the head, Zach, because underneath the discussion prompts, it says, hint, no change and hope for the best. Mix up teams between varsity and JV. Coach varsity team to better performance. So just don't change it. I don't know what it means by mix up teams between. I don't know that he should mix up the teams, but coach varsity to better performance and hope for the best is kind of what the instructions, I guess, want them to do in the end. But do you guys have any like gospel connections that you could connect to this case? Like with in regards to like family or ward family or
I made a mention because I took a marriage class last year that was about and it talked about John Gottman's 7 principles for a highly effective marriage or something like that. And he talks in there about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse for marriage, and 2 of them are criticism and contempt. And I felt like these, the varsity team had criticism and contempt within because they'd criticize each other, and they almost like they hated each other. They didn't want anything to do with each other, and so that's going to kill a team just like it would kill a marriage. So I made that connection there. It's not really gospel, kinda, but
kinda
family.
Yeah, same difference, right? But that was a different kind of connection I made between, like, it works for marriage, it also works for a team.
Well, that's a good point. Thank you for sharing.
one thing I thought of, I actually kind of put this in one of my suggestions to unify the team. I feel like the best way for people to be on the same level and look as everybody as equals is when you're doing service. I was saying maybe they should try to go do a service project or something as a team. I was just thinking, I can't remember the name of the rugby movie. It's kind of like about Highland rugby, how they go to the hospital and do Forever Strong. My wife's here. So they go and serve together as a team all the time, and they're extremely unified. And I feel like that's the same within our families, our ward family. If we're serving together, we're more unified because equals when you're serving. So
That's true.
I think that's a good long-term strategy, but you only have 4 days until nationals. So it's like, as far as dealing with nationals, I don't know how much that's going to do.
True.
Also argued the point.
For next year too, though.
Yeah. I think at this point, there's not a whole lot you can do about nationals. It's just maybe talk to them and tell them, hey, this is what's I think is wrong with you guys. We need to work on this. We'll focus on it for next year.
And I think that anything that he does do for them, regardless of if it affects nationals or not, like he can see it as I'm helping, these, because it's an army, right? It's an army school, so they're like going to be officers, right, or something, or they're in the army. I don't really know. No matter what, you need to learn these lessons and learn how to work as a cohesive unit, as a team, because you kind of have to do that in combat. So
Yeah, they'll have no choice. Or else they're just not going to succeed.
Military has a few terms for that.
Oh man.
There's a few
I
officers
hadn't
that
thought
don't
about
know how
that.
to lead.
Oh, I forgot that it's like army. Like, yeah, they're gonna have to like just drop some things and learn how to work together. Boy. It talks about what principles, if any, from this lesson's reading apply to the case. And I think the book, The Speed of Trust, right? That's for this class? Okay.
Yeah.
My class is mixed up. The Speed of Trust book, it falls right in line with this case. They don't trust each other, and so they're slower. There's low trust, low speed, literally low speed. And I just thought it's funny how they really lined up perfectly. What did you guys think?
So I was thinking of the 7 behavior, that are in the book, and how it says sometimes you can take it to an extreme, which can destroy trust. The varsity team, I feel like they're taking straight talk to the extreme, where they're degrading each other. Sometimes you have to use other bits, so they one of them's demonstrate respect or whatever, and so they weren't. So.
That's a good point.
Is he frozen? I think you froze, Zach.
Did I?
Yeah, we didn't catch the end of that.
Oh, I don't remember what I said.
It must have been excellent.
Must have, I guess so.
Oh.
Yeah, the varsity team, like he was saying, is a good example of straight talk to the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're all completely happy to criticize each other, but the team as a whole is what needs to work. And they're into everything they say is focused on either me, I, or him. And nowhere in there did they mention the team at all. And I think that's a huge indicator of their mindset and the fact that they're not a team, they're individuals.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big problem.
Yep.
And it's when they get in that boat, they don't, since they've got that I mindset and they don't trust the people who are in the boat with them, then, to talk about in the case, if somebody makes a small mistake, then everybody else has, either they have to choose to trust them or they have to try, or else it's not going to work.
Yeah, they try to compensate. Well, I think it's interesting because some of them say that they all say that they feel like they're trying to carry the boat. Well, from what you read in the beginning of the case study, it sounds like if any one individual tries to carry the boat, as they say, it's just going to make them slower because they're not in sync.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a little bit of competition like between them during the races. Like, oh no, I'm gonna have the what's it called, the rhythm, or no, I'm gonna push fastest. No, and so they've got this like little unsaid competition going on in the middle of a race, which ends up making them slower in the end. That was just a.
When they did the psychological analysis too, they said that there wasn't anybody on the team that was a clear leader.
Mhm.
And I think that could be a big part of that too. And there's nobody there to bring them together and to help make them cohesive.
Right.
True. Let's see here. What else? There is. Talked about changes and recommendations. Why? Let's go over this one and then we can be done, I think. Why would the data suggest performance yet not match the actual results of the collective team? I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit.
Yeah, because they weren't working together, right?
Yeah, it's a sync thing. They're not in sync.
Yeah, because all the data is collected individually, isn't it?
Right.
Yes,
But
it
you
is.
take the best players and then put them all on the same team and hope they'll work together. And they just
There's some data with like 2 in a boat, but 2 in a boat is not going to have the same impact as far as the sync as when you get the 8 in the boat, and that's where they're getting killed.
yeah.
Alrighty, I think we've pretty much covered everything. I enjoyed this case actually. I thought it was kind of interesting, but I think that is it. So thank you all for coming. Sorry the time was a little off today.
It's all good.
Yeah. I hope you all have a good weekend.
All right, it's all good.
See you later.
See you guys.
Who's the group leader next week?
Oh.
I don't know.
Good question.
I don't know.
I can pull up the sheet if you want.
Would you email the sheet out just so we know? So I think you were wondering when you're group leader.
Yeah, I don't know when I am. You have it pulled up, Sabrina?
I'm pulling up right now. Let's say I know I sent it. I thought I copied you guys all when I sent it to our teacher, but let me see. Let me find it again. Group leader. Sorry, I'm trying to find the.
You're good.
Trying to find the file. Group 6. There it is. So it's Zach next week, and then Kyle the week after that. I'll email it out to you guys.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you guys next week then.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
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 Okay, stop.